Hey, what's up everyone, Morey Croson here, and today we're going to be going over the throwing mechanics sequence, and we're going to start the video right now. This is the newest edition of the Performance Lab.
Reach your individual goals. You don't want to just talk about straight line speed. We also want to talk about your ability to be quick. We break down your video. Let's make you into the quarterback I know you can become.
All right, so this is something that I've talked about a lot of times. We're going to go over the 8 different parts of the throwing mechanics sequence, and really it can go a lot deeper than this. I just wanted to give you guys kind of a brief outline here just to be able to really give you some connection into what are some of the main things that you're looking at. And you know, to me, this is great practice, right? Not only for me to be able to help in being a better coach, but also to help me be a better quarterback. And the reason why is because if I could write all this stuff down, now I have a great understanding of it, right? And this is something that even when you go into, you know, high school locker rooms or into a quarterback room at the high school level, college level, pro level, they're going to have you get on the whiteboard. You're going to have to show, you know, how to beat a certain defense. You're going to have to show how to call a certain play. You know, they want you to have the exposure of getting on the whiteboard and being able to actually show your thoughts. And so that's what this is, but with throwing mechanics, right? And you have to understand this, guys. It's not something that you want to take lightly. You have to understand what it is that we're getting, because now you can go to an actual quarterback coach, me, you know, whatever the case may be, and let them know, hey, look, this is my issue, right? But if you go in there saying, hey, I don't really know what's going on, you know, hopefully you could help me, blah, 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 then you're really not taking ownership of the problem. Right? Take ownership, know what's going on, so then you can fix things faster. If you go in saying, oh yeah, I hope to get this, I hope to get that, then you're gonna keep on hoping for things all the time. All right, so first thing is gonna be upper body load with the front step, right? So as you're loading, you're taking a step, 60% of your weight should be on the back foot. Okay, so your upper body's going back to initiate the load, and 60% of your weight should be on your back leg as you take that first step. An important note here, wide base. We've been talking about wide base a lot lately. Make sure you have a wide base when you're doing this. Step number 2, or the second part of the sequence here, is the back leg is going to initiate the forward movement primarily with rotation. Okay, so what that means is that with that back foot, we want to be pushing our weight forward. We want to be initiating rotation with that back foot, with that back toe. And really, we should be getting onto that big toe, the back big toe, in order to really make sure that we're getting, you know, any degree of rotation, any degree of push. So if we're not able to really connect to our back leg and initiate movement through that back leg, it's going to be very, very difficult to be able to generate the same amount of power as somebody that is able to do that really effectively. So this is really, really important. All these steps are important, right? I really wanted to put these down into, you know, this is how it should all sequence, but this is also a degree of how important they are, which is why you got to even write them out, right? If they weren't as important, there'd be no reason to write them out. But since they are very important, I'm taking the time to actually write out this specific part of the throw, so then you know, and I know exactly what should be happening. Now I can connect to my body and say, this is what should be happening. I should be pushing off that back leg and initiating movement, you know, forward rotation. If you don't understand this, right, if you don't understand your body, if you don't understand what's going to be happening, then how are you going to control it? You got to understand what's supposed to be going on. Number 3, the ball loads back, then immediately forward rotation of the wrist. Okay, so we're going back. You know, some people say Dan Marino just went up and out. Yeah, that was the goal that his dad told him, but that's not, when you actually slow it down, he went back. Everybody goes back. You have to load in order to explode. You can't just jump, right? You have to load, then jump. You can't just sprint. You have to load and then sprint. You can't just throw. You got to load and throw. There's no baseball pitchers that just throw. There's no quarterbacks that just throw. You have to load first. That's just the simple biomechanics of the body. You can't just, you know, when you do a bench press, you got to load the bench press in order to push. Okay, so the initiation is a backwards movement. Some people have a longer backwards movement. Some people are shorter. You know, that's where Dan Marino is great. He had a very, very short back movement and then immediately went to forward rotation of the wrist, getting that pinky facing straight ahead. Okay, number 4. Lower half of the body continues forward motion, right? So now we've loaded, we're getting the rotation of the pinky to make it so the wrist is facing straight ahead, the pinky's facing straight ahead, the nose of the football is facing straight ahead, or where it is that we're going to. So, you know, if you're a deeper throw or throwing a longer pass, the nose of the football is going to be a little bit more upwards. But The lower half is continuing the forward movement, right? So you want to be, as the wrist is rotating, you want to keep that forward movement to keep and create that disassociation. There's going to be disassociation that starts off here, but really, create, it should really be keep, right? Create or keep disassociation, right? Because that disassociation is going to kind of start a little bit here, but we want to be able to keep that disassociation, keep the lower body in front for as long as we can, from the upper half. Okay, keep that lower body in front of the upper body as long as we possibly can. Step number 5, the throwing elbows drives forward. So when the wrist is rotating, the elbow's coming through, the wrist is going to be a little bit behind the elbow at first, which is what creates that external rotation. We've talked about, we've seen, some of the greats that have that, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, just to name a few of the great guys that have a lot of extra rotation in their arm as they're going. I think the front arm needs to be pulling back, right? We've seen that with like Justin Herbert, even Phillip Rivers, front arm pulls back, right? They really create a lot of front arm action, which allows them to create more rotation within the spine. Lower body continues rotation. A lot of times when we get to this point, we see people that stop their forward movement with their lower body. Their lower body starts to really hit like a dead point, right? When we see that, we know it's somebody that's not maximizing their force production. Okay, so you got to be able to keep that rotation, and there's really somebody who's going to struggle with accuracy. If you're not able to go through the throw and continue movement through the throw, now it becomes a lot more like of a jerky movement, which means you're lacking control. If you're lacking control, you're not going to be as accurate. You got to be able to continue through this throw, and as you're continuing through, you have to be able to maintain a strong elbow drive. So you have to be able to understand what's happening in the upper body and what's happening in the lower body in order to really maximize this movement pattern. Number 6, the elbow keeps forward movement as the wrist comes through, right? So the elbow doesn't want to stop. We see people that stop the elbow, or the elbow goes out to the side, whatever. If the elbow's too far out to the side, then that'll make it so it stops. But the elbow wants to keep moving forward. You want to get as much action of that elbow as you possibly can. Keep moving forward with the elbow. Some of these things, the reason I put this in here is because I see these mistakes hundreds of times, a bunch of times. I'm seeing these breakdowns all the time. Sorry if I'm talking fast, but I'm getting a little motivated, I want you guys to be great. I want to see people that have great mechanics, and it makes me upset when I see, I make all this content and I still see the same mistakes. So keep that elbow moving, forward movement of the elbow as the wrist is coming through, and flexes, right? So as the wrist is going through and initiating the flexion, front part of the body stays firm. Okay, so this is where we start to see people lose control of the spine and start to lean off to the side. That has to do with the front arm, that has to do with that front spine, that has to do with how well you're rotating within the hips, that has to do with how strong you are within that front leg, how stable you are within that front leg, front ankle, all that type of stuff. All these things matter. Throwing a football, there's a reason why there's such a small percentage of people that can do it at such a high level. Even if you're a starting quarterback in high school, you are part of the top probably 3% in terms of football players that are able to play at a high level, right? If you're at Division I level, you're probably like the top 0.5%, maybe even lower of athletes overall that could actually play at that level, right? It's not an easy thing to be able to throw a football consistently and also be able to throw with a lot of force on it. Number 7, wrist flicks to release the ball. Now, I made number 7 its own thing because I think the wrist flick is that important. Okay, all these other things, this, that, I talked about the upper body and lower body in a lot of these, how they should be working together, front arm with the elbow, with the lower body, number 5. Number 7, wrist flick. Just the wrist flick needs to be happening here, and there needs to be a great deal of attention on how that should be. It's going to be a little bit different for everybody, but you got to be able to master that. The index finger and the thumb, and the relationship there is really important as we're talking about the actual flick of the wrist and the release of the football. And then number 8, the arm follows through and the body stays balanced. So as you're going through, you want to be balanced. You want to be under control, the best you can. If you're taking a shot at that time, you're obviously going to be going, falling over to the side. But if you're not getting hit, you want to be balanced. You want to have control. You want that arm to be following all the way down and through in order to complete the throw. And those are going to be the main parts of your throwing mechanics sequence. As always, if you like the information, go ahead and click that thumbs up down below, subscribe to the channel, and if you have any questions, comments, or recommendations, you can leave those down below. I really appreciate you guys watching these videos. I really hope that they're helping out. If you have questions, again, leave those down below. We want to be able to get to them. We want to make sure you have a clean understanding of exactly how you should be throwing the football in order to really maximize distance, velocity, accuracy. All those things are going to come into play, and having the correct sequence is what matters in order to make that happen. So check out Quarterback University, check out our throw program, throw breakdowns. I know a lot of you guys are coming to the end of the season. It's time to get right. It's time to really put a focus on your throwing mechanics, and I really know that here at the Performance Lab, we put a big emphasis on really understanding all the nitty-gritty that goes behind the throwing mechanics, biomechanics, right? And so we want to be able to help you in being able to maximize that. So if you guys have any questions, let me know. Check the description, and thanks for watching. We'll talk to you soon. Like, subscribe, that helps us out a ton.